Oh, yeah. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for stopping by and welcome to the Buckeye Zone. This is where we break down anything and everything related to our favorite college football program, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Oh, boy. There is so much going on. There seems to be something newsworthy regarding Ohio State football or just college football in general, where I feel like I could be having a daily podcast, if not weekly podcast. I mean, I feel bad that I can only record these things once every 2 weeks and put them out there for you guys to listen to. So I apologize, Buckeye Nation, because there's so much going on. My previous show, I think I ended up covering 4 or 5 different topics. Could have broken that one out into 2 to 4 different types of shows, but I just don't have the time, man. It's busy time in my life with my career and having 4 kids. They take up a lot of time, but I try to do what I can and bring you guys up to speed on what's going on. Obviously, you guys are probably in tune with what's happening all across this great nation and our favorite sport, which is college football. Since our previous show was released, we had some big news, huge news, considering or covering conference realignment. I know we haven't really delved into that topic for the past 8 to 10 years since the last time we had a whole bunch of things going on, teams jumping ship from one conference to another. Back then, Big Ten gained teams. We didn't lose any, but we gained Nebraska from the Big 12, gained Maryland and Rutgers, which in my opinion was a joke, but whatever. They wanted TV markets over there in Baltimore and with New York. And you know what, I can tell you right now, New York doesn't really care about Rutgers football. So you know what, we're just going to go ahead and talk about what's been happening and the news that kind of broke during the Big 12 media days. That would be Texas and Oklahoma would be leaving the Big 12 conference and joining the SEC, the Southeastern Conference. I find it kind of ironic or kind of funny that this news broke while Jimbo Fisher was up at the podium discussing, his team, Texas A&M. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. They are probably the ones that leaked the information to the news media. The Houston Chronicle, I believe, is the outlet that started asking questions or reporting it. Texas A&M has always been like the little brother to Texas, and they made the move 8-10 years ago away from the Big 12 to the SEC, just to create some sort of division, create a separation between the two programs. And they've been fairly successful. I mean, if you remember Johnny Manziel and all the success he had, obviously he was a Heisman Trophy winner and really elevated that program. But then once Kevin Sumlin left, or I should say was fired, they ended up hiring Jimbo Fisher away from Florida State. And he's been slowly building up that program, slowly taking away talent away from Texas. I think that's what, they had envisioned from the beginning. And Jimbo Fisher, to his credit, he basically had his team on the verge of their first appearance in the college football playoff. And so, I can see why they're kind of upset at Texas and Oklahoma. These are 2 big time programs, 2 blue bloods of the sport. And, having them join their conference there in the SEC, most likely if they do the divisions properly, it would probably hinder their ability to win a conference championship or make it into the college football playoff. And I really think the this has been sped up. The idea of moving from a 4-team playoff to a 12-team playoff puts less emphasis on you have to win your conference. You could easily make the playoffs with 2 or 3 losses, and you don't have to win your conference. And it looks like it's, going to happen here in the next 4 or 5 years, possibly sooner. And that's basically the timeline that's been described to everybody, that Texas and Oklahoma, they have to wait till their, I believe, TV deals get situated. They can't really join a new conference until, or basically leave the Big 12 until 2025. Obviously, things can get moved up if the Big 12 dissolves. And I think it's kind of funny, their conference president sent a cease and desist order against ESPN. Bob Bowlesby ended up doing this because he has actually insider information and knowledge that ESPN has been trying to dissolve his conference to basically make Texas and Oklahoma part of the SEC a little sooner because of their TV rights and their network deals. This would be a lucrative contract that could be sped up, that they could obviously make a ton more money moving forward if it gets, if the Big 12 conference dissolves sooner than 2025. So interesting things going on there. There could be lawsuits pending. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the ins and outs of what's going on. I don't even know if everything's being even reported because there's possible lawsuits that could come down against ESPN and maybe other networks that could be involved. But man, a lot of craziness going on right now between Texas and Oklahoma, SEC, the ESPN networks, a lot of things going on. But, what does this all mean for Ohio State? I mean, I think that's the main thing that, we're concerned about and why I'm reporting on this. Man, I don't know. It is kind of crazy. It's a very fluid situation. The Big Ten, they have some weak leadership, man, with Kevin Warren and some of those league presidents. I don't know. What does it actually mean for the Big Ten and Ohio State? There's possible rumors out there of, this is just the first domino. It's a massive domino that's falling. But what does it mean for the rest of the conferences? I know at one point, before all this happened, there was rumors that, there were, out of the Power 5 conferences, maybe split them up and then have only 4 16-team mega conferences. It kind of looks like it might be heading in that direction. SEC is now, with Texas and Oklahoma, they have 16 teams. But are they really stopping there? I mean, there's so many rumors flying around right now, guys. It's insane. It sounds like just a couple of days ago, it was being reported that the SEC was possibly going to be a new home for Clemson and Florida State, or at least those 2 universities were looking to jump ship from the ACC and go to SEC. I mean, oh my gosh, there's, at least one more blue blood, if you can call Florida State blue blood. Clemson's been on the rise. Obviously, they've got a ton of success under Dabo Swinney and have won 2 national championships recently. They don't look like they're going to be slowing down anytime soon. So I'm like, I don't know what is going on. And then you have other things happening, or rumors, where, what's going on with the Big 12 then? Are they just going to completely dissolve? Are some of these teams just going to just split up naturally to other conferences? The Big 10 was rumored to be looking at Kansas and Iowa State, possibly West Virginia. And I'm thinking, man, this is just dumb. Like, it's just garbage. Why in the world would the Big Ten, want Kansas and Iowa State and West Virginia, to be honest? I mean, I guess a natural rivalry with West Virginia and possibly going up against maybe Penn State. I guess that's a rivalry. I don't know. But Kansas, I mean, what's driving all this is obviously football, because that's the big money maker. Like I've always said, follow the money. If you want answers, follow the money. It's football that's driving the conference realignments. It's nothing else. Kansas offers absolutely nothing when it comes to football. They have no prestige, no history of success, nothing. Sure, great. They have a pretty good basketball program. They're a blue blood as far as that aspect for college basketball. But football, they're a joke. They're nothing. Why would we want them in the Big Ten? In Iowa State, they're basically nothing too. They don't even have a good basketball program. It's just the recent success they've had, if you can call that, under Matt Campbell, their head coach. They're at Iowa State. Like, if Matt Campbell leaves Iowa State, they're nothing. And they've been nothing before this. That's the only kicker right there. I almost feel that way with, like, say, years ago when the Big Ten picked up Nebraska. They were nothing. They were pretty much nothing before Tom Osborne. He made them relevant. He won national championships. But what have they done since then? Pretty much nothing. And the jury's still out on Scott Frost, whether or not he can, take his alma mater there and make them relevant again. Well, supposedly before this year, he's now on the hot seat after only being there, 2 years? And he's having issues. So I don't know, man. Kansas, Iowa State, I don't really want them in the Big Ten. I don't know. It's frustrating because it sounds like the Big 12 is just going to fall apart. It's possible that they could pick up some other teams. I guess, they were talking about expansion a while back, possibly looking at Houston, BYU, Cincinnati, because, before, it seems to keep up with the times, you needed a conference championship. And the NCAA, they had a rule where you had to have 12 teams in your conference in order to have a conference championship game. And they had to make an exception for the Big 12 because they only had 10. And they've had their conference championship game the last 2 years because they had to have that, exception granted to them. And if you take away 2 teams, obviously they have 8, so they can't even have that. But they don't really even have a conference. If you take away Texas and Oklahoma, they're not, especially not a Power 5 conference. They're a group below that. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, what are we doing here? Are we just actually going to split up the entire thing, just blow it all up? And it sounds like it's just going to do that anyway, naturally, with Texas and Oklahoma leaving that conference. Like, the Big 12 is just going to be a tier below. They're not going to be any better, in my opinion, than, say, the MAC or the Mountain West. If anything, the American Athletic Conference, which was the Big East, they've had more success than what's remaining in the Big 12 conference. I mean, Houston's been relevant. Cincinnati has certainly been relevant here in the last couple of years, especially with Luke Fickell taking over. University of Central Florida, when Scott Frost was there, they're claiming a couple of years ago that they had a national championship, even though they didn't make it into the college football playoff. They're claiming they have a national championship because they went undefeated. So, a lot of craziness is going on right now. And I don't think anybody knows what's really going to happen, the next steps moving forward. Should the Big Ten add more teams? But what teams? There's a possible merger. They're possibly talking with, I don't know if it's true or not, it's just rumors, talking with the Big 12, possibly doing something with them. I don't know if there's really a possibility of having a merger, so to speak, because then at some point, well, who's going to be the commissioner? Or yeah, who's going to be the commissioner of that conference? Like, I seriously doubt either one of them, those two commissioners, would step aside and be like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm gonna go ahead and forfeit, my lucrative contract, making millions of dollars, and I'm just gonna step away and not even worry about that." Like, it just does not make any sense to me. What in the world's going on? And I know the Big Ten's all worried about academics and being prestigious with their academics, but like, they're doing great things. Don't get me wrong. They're trying to look for research, medically, trying to eradicate cancer, or finding solutions to do some serious work in the medical field. But I'm thinking, why can't you do that anyways? Why do you need a partnership with certain teams within a conference? Why can't you have collaboration otherwise, away from, draw a line in the sand as far as conferences, and it should only be revolving around athletics? So I don't know. There was, a report that then they were thinking about just poaching other universities from other conferences. Like I had mentioned, doing that from the Big 12, but they were thinking about possibly doing that anyways with, the Big or the Pac-12. That they want. The Big Ten is really worried about the Association of American Universities. Sorry, I was stumbling there for a little bit because I got so much information here. I got notes on paper. I got notes on my phone. But yeah, they're worried about the AAU, the Big Ten is, and trying to add other universities to that regard. Now I'm looking at, both Kansas and Iowa State are both members of this organization, and that's, supposedly important to the Big Ten. Other members, I guess Texas was or is a member of the AAU, but so is, here, these are ones being reported from Adam Rittenberg, who I like to pay attention to. He is also saying that the Pac-12 schools would include Cal, Washington, Colorado, USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Stanford. So those could be possibilities that the Big 12 may, or the Big 10 may add from the Pac-12. But man, that's a lot of things to unpack there. Like, do you really want to go out west like that and start picking off those teams? I mean, I wouldn't mind doing that. That's something that they could obviously do. Would it make sense, based on geography? Do you want to just stay in the Midwest? At this point, you got to seriously take a look at your national brand, not just in the Midwest. You may need to go coast to coast here. I wouldn't be opposed to going and picking off, say, UCLA or USC. I think that might be smart. And then possibly get a school or two from, say, around Texas, possibly, or even Oklahoma State. Pick off that one. And then why stop there? Get a school or two from, say, the ACC. Why not pick up Florida State or Miami? I mean, is what's basically driving all of this is college football and recruiting. I mean, you want a bigger footprint for recruits? Go to California, go to Texas and Oklahoma, go to, say, Georgia or Florida. That's where you need to go, man. Like, don't be left behind. I really don't like the leadership of the Big Ten and Kevin Warren. I'm not gonna step aside and say, oh, they're great, blah, blah, blah. No, they're terrible. During the Big Ten media days, which they moved from Chicago to Indianapolis, I don't have a problem with that. And I'll talk about a move from Indy in a second here. But Kevin Warren, during the Big Ten media days, he was on record saying, for one, there was epic failures last year with COVID and the restrictions and the guidelines, canceling the season and saying we're not going to revisit this. And then all of a sudden he's got egg on his face and, oh, yep, nope, we're going to have a season now, but it's going to be shortened. And he said that he has no regrets. Really? Like, we're a forgiving society. Just go ahead and say you guys screwed up. It's fine. We decided, we kind of made a mistake. We jumped the gun. And you know what? That's why we decided to go ahead and play out the season. Okay, that's fine. Do that. But he said that they had no regrets. Okay. I don't know. Kevin Warren, he comes out and says that we're not looking into adding universities to the conference. I'm thinking either he's got a huge poker face right now, and he doesn't want to tip his hand, or he's going to fall to the wayside. He's falling behind here because you need to make a move. Like and it's not just make a move to make a move. You need to make a power play move here, because it looks like in the landscape of college football, it's the Southeastern Conference and everybody else. It really does at this point. So what are you going to do? Like, you have to make a move that's substantial, that's important, that's going to create shockwaves like they did in the Southeastern Conference with adding Texas and Oklahoma, because it's now official. They are joining. They are leaving the Big 12. During the last 2 weeks, it was just a rumor. And then in the last week, it's official. So who do you do? Or like, who do you go get? Like, I would love for us to pick off Notre Dame, but that's not going to happen. They care too much about being independent, thinking they're special. We got our own little contract here with NBC. And I know, I understand. I live in Indiana. I get it. I'm in the front row here, guys. I see it because it's all around me. But they will not join a conference, and it will be like the last resort. Speaking of last resorts, that's what happened last year with 2020 and COVID, messing everything up. That's why they joined the ACC for 1 year, because they had to, because you weren't allowed to basically have an independent status. You had to basically join a conference. BYU figured it out, but it seemed like a natural fit because Notre Dame's, all their other athletic teams are playing basically the ACC schedules and those teams. So it just seemed like a natural fit for the football team to do the same thing, but there's no way they're going to join a conference. Now, that would be the main one that I would go after. I wouldn't be talking to Kansas or Iowa State or West Virginia. It's Notre Dame, and then you got to start thinking outside the box here, guys, like away from the Midwest, because there really isn't anything around. There really isn't. It's even, man, I keep going back about Maryland and Rutgers. Like, that's just a complete joke. I understand they were trying to get the TV markets involved, but at this point, it doesn't matter. You need to be competing against the Southeastern Conference and actually adding teams of quality, teams of relevance and importance. Rutgers and Maryland have never really been important or relevant. So you need to start looking outside the box here. And I just don't have any faith in the leadership of the Big Ten, Kevin Warren, because honestly, they're basically a laughingstock. They've made a joke out of everything that they've done recently. So, you know what? It is what it is. Things are changing. Things are happening very rapidly. It sounds like Texas and Oklahoma, they've been discussing this move for at least 6 months. But there's also reports now that are just, like news breaking that, like, in the last hour, it's 12:41 here on Tuesday. August 3rd, and within the past hour, it's being reported that at least being reported by the Texas president that they were looking to leave back in 2016 or even before that time period. And they were looking at the Big Ten, which, my goodness, that would have been awesome. But they were also looking at possibly moving to the ACC, and he came out and said that we weren't even looking West Coast, basically the Pac-12. They were looking to leave back then. So, what's going on, man? Like, the NCAA can just go away. If they, end up going to a couple mega conferences, they're already not in control of college football in the postseason. It's the conference commissioners and others who are determining the college football playoff. So things are just rapidly changing before your eyes. A lot of people just don't know what to make of it, all of it. There's so many rumors flying around. It's just kind of crazy. And I would like to, go back and talk about that leadership problem. I said I would go back to Indianapolis and Kevin Warren. Like, they had their Big Ten media days, and Kevin Warren, one thing that he said that obviously I disagreed with him about, there was no mistakes made last year, blah, blah, blah. He came out and said that they want to move the Big Ten championship game, like have different sites and move it away from always being at Indianapolis. And I think that's kind of a mistake too. Like, first of all, conference realignment, he needs to step up to the plate and add some big time universities. But also, what are you doing? Having the possibility and moving the Big Ten title game away from Indianapolis. Yeah, I'm kind of biased because I live in Indiana. I live like 2 hours away, so it's awesome. Like, the last 4 years, Ohio State's been there. Granted, we couldn't go there last year because of COVID, but yeah, I'm kind of biased. I kind of want it to always to be in Indianapolis. But I mean, it makes sense geography wise, like, it's in the center of your conference. Okay, yeah, teams got to travel. Okay, Nebraska, say Maryland, Rutgers, which probably never going to make it there. Just being, completely honest. Like, you look at, say, Vanderbilt from the SEC. They're never going to make it to the SEC championship game. Okay, so I don't really care about the distance that some of these teams have to travel. I mean, Ohio State will represent wherever. I mean, all these bowl games that they go to, they're represented well. If it's Arizona, Texas, the Rose Bowl, somewhere in, say, like Miami, Florida, like the national championship game this past season, they're going to show up anywhere. So I'm not worried about Ohio State if we have to go somewhere. But he's talking about going and having these games possibly in New York at, I think it was at MetLife Stadium, wherever the Giants and the Jets play. Like, come on, man. Like, New York doesn't give a rip about Big Ten football. Quit trying to push this agenda through. I mean, you want a good product, right? I mean, it's all about money. Follow the money. I guarantee you the TV networks would rather have a good game indoors, like, say, at Lucas Oil Stadium, versus outdoors where it could be potentially 10 degrees with snow. I get it. There's hardcore football fans that were like, oh, football should be played outside in any type of element. It should be, like I said, played outdoors in 10 degrees with snow. Okay, cool, Grandpa. Like, that's great that you like that tradition and you want to uphold that. But you know what? Times have changed. Move on. We want a good TV product. And if it's played indoors or if it's played somewhere where it's 65, 70 degree weather, no snow possible, then that's what needs to be done because it looks better. Like, okay, move on, because that's the direction that we've been going. I mean, the gold standard now is the Southeastern Conference, and they've been playing indoors in Atlanta since 1994. They're not having an issue. You don't hear Alabama complaining, oh, we have to travel so far to get to this game. No, you don't hear that. Give me a break. And they're more than thrilled to be traveling from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, all the way to Atlanta, Georgia. Yes, it's in Georgia. It's in their backyard. Half the time they're not in that game anyway, but I really don't hear anybody complaining about that. So I don't know, man. Like, you've got to Kevin Warren. I don't know. He just needs to be fired. I hate calling for people to get fired, but he's been tripping over himself so much since he became the commissioner of the Big Ten. He almost needs to go. But anyway, conference realignment has been dominating the news media over the past week to 2 weeks. It's kind of crazy what's happening. I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on what you think the Big Ten should do moving forward. What is the direction that they're headed? How do they keep up with the Southeastern Conference? Something is going to happen. I can guarantee you that. Some sort of response is going to take place. And I'm not 100% sure I will like the direction that it's headed. So I don't know. That's where we're at the moment. Obviously, things are changing very rapidly. Hopefully, I can bring you guys some more information regarding conference realignment. But that's just where we're at. They did have the Big Ten Media Days. Ryan Day was there with a couple guys, and not really surprised. He didn't name a starting quarterback. Fall camp is actually going to start this week. That's going to be interesting. We'll talk about Quinn Ewers in the upcoming podcast show. I think I'll go ahead and record it. I won't post it just yet. I'll probably post it later this week because I'm getting fired up, man. Hopefully you guys are too. A lot of things going on. We'll talk about Quinn Ewers in the next one, but yeah, he didn't at that point, at that time during the Big Ten Media Days. We just have a quarterback competition of Jack Miller, Kyle McCord, and CJ Stroud. So he didn't name a starting quarterback. He'll probably do it as late as possible, probably right before the first game against Minnesota. He'll probably announce it. But fall camp's happening. Interested in to see what's going on, not just with the quarterback, but see what's going on with that secondary. They were really bad last year. I think they were ranked 122nd out of 130 teams. So it's going to improve. There was injuries to Cam Brown last year, Court Williams. They'll definitely see some playing time. Lantham Ransom, he's going to get some playing time. Ryan Watts. There's a lot of dudes that they've got. I mean, they had to replace quite a bit last year. I mean, it was such a terrible year, obviously with COVID, but that restricted your practice time, and trying to replace 3 guys in the secondary that went on to the NFL who were starters from the previous year. Kerry Combs had a tall task in front of him, and it wasn't made any easier with all the restrictions that were placed on him. But they end up losing those 3 guys to the NFL. Fuller, Arnett. I'm missing on the guy. But you also had Sean Wade, who was pretty much came out and said he was injured the entire year. He also was playing a new position because he was like that bullet position. He was playing in that run in 2019. He was playing against the slot receivers. Then he switched and was trying to cover guys on the outside. So you know what? It was a difficult year all the way around. They lost 2 other guys from the secondary who got kicked off the team. Had some criminal. We won't go into that. But 2 guys got kicked off the team from the secondary, so they end up losing 5 guys. That's going to put a strain on any position unit. So, it's, oh yeah, we also had Jeff Okudah who went on to the NFL. Sorry, I had to think about it for a hot second there, but man, they had so much going on last year. No wonder that they struggled. I look for them to rebound with Coach Combs. Coach Combs coming back, and he's now the defensive coordinator. People are saying that they really like Matt Barnes. He got promoted from the special teams unit to now he's coaching the secondary. So, Coach Combs, he's going to be focusing more on the defensive play calling instead of just the secondary unit. Last year they had to replace, a Heisman Trophy candidate in Chase Young. Hopefully we can do that now. I mean, I have all the faith in the world in the defensive line coach and Larry Johnson and his ability to coach those guys up. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do. The defense is getting reworked, man, because then they got to replace those 4 guys at linebacker, 3 starters and basically a 4th starter if you count Hillard. So, oh yeah, I didn't even mention so much going on, guys. Then you got, who's going to be taking over at the running back position? Is it going to be running backs by committee? Are they going to stick with one guy? Who knows? But Coach Day has a tall task in front of him. It's going to be fun time. We're now in August. Games are going to be happening here fairly quickly. So a lot of things going on. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the ride. But yeah, conference realignment obviously dominated today's show. It's been dominating the media over the past week and a half, 2 weeks, and it's not going to slow down. Things are going to be changing in front of our eyes here almost on a daily basis. So hold on, buckle up. It's going to be a fun ride. Things are going to be changing quickly. So please stay up to date on this sort of thing. And you know what? Hopefully Buckeye Nation, we'll get some answers here, some clarity coming up soon. And I'll try to, report back to you guys as soon as I can. But conference realignment, that's basically what dominated today's show. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Buckeye Nation, thank you so much for stopping by and listening. And you know what? Please go over to my Facebook page, like it, and share it with your other Buckeye friends and family. Hopefully we can continue to grow this page and this podcast show over the next year. And I look forward to breaking down games because that's going to be happening here soon. And I'll do that on a weekly basis. I'll make some time out of my busy schedule between, my career and family life. We'll figure this out. We'll get it going. Looking forward to actually some games because that's what it's all about. Watching these games and watching these student athletes compete. Hopefully, Ryan Day, I have all the faith in the world that he'll have this team rolling and ready. Coach Mick is going to have the guys in incredible shape like he always does. So get ready, Buckeye Nation. We're going to do this together. So thank you again for stopping by, and please share this podcast with all your friends. Thanks a lot for stopping by, and go Bucks.